Football Tribe UG channel. Robert Kesakos is your usual suspect. Welcome back to yet another live broadcast on your favorite football updates channel. It's a pleasure to be back in the immediate aftermath over some of your favorite games from the Premier League. Action does continue between Fulham and Brentford. That game went into halftime with Fulham leading by 2 goals to 1, having come from a goal down to take the lead in 2 goals, both scored within a space of about 98 seconds, to make sure that they take the lead against Brentford as we speak. So that game is into halftime. Anyways, welcome back to the channel. I hope you're having a wonderful weekend. I hope you're enjoying yourselves. Hope you've been enjoying the games that did transpire. We did kickstart the weekend with the Merseyside Derby, one that I myself did enjoy. I was unable to do a watch along as had been requested of me by what was his name? I'm forgetting. FT Bell. JF, yes. He's the one that had requested us to do that. But unfortunately, we're unable to do that watch along due to circumstances beyond our control. So apologies on that one. Anyways, allow me have our audios tested before we go any further. Make sure everything does check out before we proceed for the purposes of this broadcast. But yeah. It's good to be back. It's good to be back, and I hope you're enjoying every single minute of football that's coming your way. Those that have been enjoying the Spanish La Liga, the Italian Serie A, the German Bundesliga, or the French League One, it's good to know that you're following the conversation or the games as they do come. As we speak, excuse me. Just need to checking out on something so that I make sure I'm up to speed on everything that needs to be checked up on, in regards to football updates. When you get on live and it's in the midst of ongoing games, it's sort of, it's usually sort of, what should I say, a bit difficult to it's easy, sorry, to miss out on certain things. But anyways, all that notwithstanding, we are glad to be back for today's broadcast. So, like I said, we did kickstart off the day with that Merseyside Derby, in which Liverpool managed to cruise to a 2-1 victory at the expense of Everton. And then we saw a 2-2 draw between Brighton and Tottenham Hotspur. A couple of more draws, teams losing, and things like that. Until right now, like I said, Fulham is in halftime, but they are leading against Brentford by 2 goals to 1. Excuse me. Brentford having taken the lead in that one. So when do we start it all off? Let's start off with that game between Manchester United and Chelsea, because it was the biggest game of the weekend, of Saturday, and it finished in favor of Manchester United, winning that game by 2 goals to 1 against, quote unquote, a 10-man Chelsea for a certain part of the game before Man United themselves got a player sent off to put back the equation to all square. So, in as early as the 4th minute or 50th minute thereabout, Robert Sanchez was at the end of matching orders from the referee, having been sent off with a straight red card, and for a foul against what's his name? For a foul against Brandon Bromo, which denied him a goal scoring opportunity. Chelsea did come into this particular fixture with a host of injuries, of course, missing some key players, and things like that. But all that notwithstanding, I watched the incident multiple times, and I couldn't help but wonder. I couldn't help but think to myself, time and again, what on God's green earth was he thinking? What was Robert Sanchez thinking, going in for that kind of tackle against Brian Mbomo, knowing he was the last man, yet found Robert Sanchez himself outside the area or his protected zone, and then he goes in for with that kind of tackle. I mean, there was only one outcome that there was going to be a straight red card. I'm sorry, there's nothing to defend about it. There's nothing to sugarcoat about it. I mean, when you're a player uh, of the experience of Robert Sanchez, and subsequently we'll talk about Casemiro because even he himself did not do himself any favors. But when you're a player of Robert Sanchez's experience, our expectations is that you have better judgment, that he should do better. If it was Tommy Setford, the 18-year-old Arsenal goalkeeper, committing such an error, I would sort of understand. I would blame it on the inexperience. I'd blame it on, the lack of consistent game time. But we're talking about Chelsea's number one goalkeeper playing in a game, a Premier League game that is in the fourth minute. It's not like we're into the 86th minute and then suddenly it's a do or die, and that if you do take one for the team, you sort of protect a lead or you protect a point that you're trying to win at Old Trafford. It was nothing like that. So, because I'm always of the view, and maybe I'm wrong about this, maybe my whole mentality about it is wrong, but I'm always of the view that for as long as you remain 11 men on the pitch, you give yourselves a chance against any opponent. That's the first thing. Stay 11 people, 11 versus 11. But the moment it goes 11 versus 10, the odds begin to shift in the favor of the team that has that extra player. Then also, while there are certain moments in the game where I feel it's okay to concede. Of course, every team goes out there to play, hoping to keep a clean sheet, score on the other side, keep a clean sheet, win your game. But we all know that at the end of the day, teams more often than not, get to score against their opponents. So for you to concede a goal in the first 10 minutes of the game, whereas it's not the desired result, or it's not the desired circumstance of the game that you would love to find yourselves in, but give your side a chance, a fighting chance, by staying, 11 on the pitch. Because the moment you give your opponent the numerical advantage, it's going to work against you. Because you're going to have to use a lot of energy just to fight to stay in that game. We saw it against Arsenal and Manchester City at the Etihad Stadium last season. When Leandro Trossard got sent off, how hard they had to work to stay in the game, and they managed to keep a hold of it until they conceded a late equalizer to John Stones scoring. We know it happened with Arsenal against Brighton and Hove Albion, Declan Rice getting sent off, and then they lost their 1-0 lead. Joao Pedro ended up scoring, which was an offside goal, I think, build-up, and it finished 1-1. We saw it, William Saliba versus Bournemouth, Evan Nelson, he gets sent off and they lose by 2-0. So for me, I feel that if you're 11 men on the team and it's what? It's still first half, even early in the second half, you shouldn't be committing a stupid foul. And I call it stupid intentionally because some fouls is that maybe it's a mistimed, forget a mistimed foul where you intend to hit the ball and then suddenly you are a second late or a microsecond late and then you catch the player's foot and then suddenly you send off. That way, sometimes that way the context is different. But also what part of the pitch that you are on, especially for outfield players. But for goalkeeper, I mean, stay. I understand you coming out, but the moment you realize that you're not going to beat your opponent to the ball, accept conceding. Accept conceding. Yes, we may blame you for your misjudgment, but at least you're 11 men on the pitch. So Robert Sanchez did not give his team that chance. He did not give them that opportunity. He did not give them that opportunity to stay in the game. So they considered in as early as the 50th minute. They considered that red card. He was, of course, sent off. They sacrificed William Estaval to pave way for Felipe Jorgensen, the backup goalkeeper, and then quickly or in quick succession, they made more changes. Those changes, they withdrew Pedro Neto, and they brought on I think it was Tosin Aderabio that was brought on for Pedro Neto, and then by the 21st minute, Cole had also been withdrawn for Andre Santos. Now, from what we gather, contrary to what my first instincts had been, is that for Cole it had been an injury issue, Cole kind of thing. Guys, forgive me. I feel like my voice is cracking or my throat, something like that. Anyways, so I felt, first of all, Enzo Maresca, that's expected. You lose a goalkeeper to red card, somebody has to be sacrificed, you bring on a goalkeeper. That's the best of it. But him going on to withdraw a Pedro at the same time to bring in Tosin Aderabio, I did not understand that decision. Because while you're at disadvantage, and call it whatever you want, is that simply change tactics. Maybe try to be a bit more conservative. Look to catch this team, the opponents on the counter or on the break. And guess what? Players like Pedro Neto are the kinds of players that give you that width play, and they have that pace. They can run, they can go on the counter quickly, they can break, they can take on players, they can, move bodies. But he denied himself that chance by taking off both his wingers. Then, like I said, fast forward into the 21st minute, then he withdrew Copama and brought on Andre Santos. But by the time he had withdrawn him, they had already conceded to Bruno Fernandes' goal. A cross is brought in by Patrick Togu. Bruno Fernandes sort of beats the offside trap and then he scores. Simple tapping, and it's 1-0. And then, in the 17th minute, Casemiro gets himself booked for a yellow card. And I'll tell you why that is important just in a bit. Because in the 37th minute, that's when Casemiro scores off a Harry Maguire flicked header, and he scores with his header, Casemiro himself, to make it 2-0. Now, in that very moment, first of all, I blame that goal on the goalkeeper, Felipe Jorgensen. There's a Chelsea player that kicks that ball literally in the air, and he does not come to fight for that ball. He should have come out flying high, trying to patch that ball away, but he did not do that. Then the Chelsea defense literally slipped on the job themselves, not fighting for that ball well enough in the air that they concede possession to Harry Maguire, who heads it in the direction of Casemiro before he buries it into the back of the net. Now, before that moment comes, Chelsea had withdrawn Cole Palmer for apparently for an injury and brought on Andre Santos. Now, Enzo Maresca was asked about why he made all the quick changes, and he said Manchester United attacked with 5 players, so they needed 5 defenders on the pitch to justify the swap for Pedro Neto for William Estaval. My feeling in that moment is that no, do not bring on another defender. Just command or give instructions to Moses Caicedo to play slightly more deeper, as that sort of other defender that you want to fill that void, and then let Enzo Fernandez patrol that area. Let that winger in Pedro Neto pull a little bit inwards so that you try and manage things. But he is the manager at the end of the day. He sort of chose to go with different tactics. No wonder they did not pay off. So, like I told you, in the 37th minute, Casemiro scored, but in the 17th minute, he had received a yellow card. Now, in the 50th minute of added time in the opening half, because I think there was about 9 minutes added into the opening half, following the red card and the goal celebrations and everything that lay in that path. So Casemiro pulls a Chelsea player down. I do not remember who the player was. I think it was Andre Santos. And I'm thinking to myself, yes, they are in your half, but it's not like it was looking so dangerously. You know, you're already booked. You're literally walking on thin ice. For a player of Casemiro's experience and age, I did not expect that kind of stupid foul. So he makes the foul. He pulls Andre Santos to the ground and is given a second booking and off his sent off. So now it's 10 versus 10. And that gave Manchester United trembles, because they knew that they had lost the numerical advantage. They knew that going into the second half, it was going to be a balanced game in terms of numbers on the pitch. And that showed because as soon as they returned for the second half, Benjamin Sesko was sacrificed to accommodate Manuel Ugarte in midfield, to accommodate Manuel Ugarte. Now, essentially, the entirety of the game was a game of two halves. Manchester United dominated the first half due to their numerical advantage, but they did not have a decent second half. They struggled to keep a hold of the ball. Chelsea did that better, and it did eventually pay off when Trevor Chalobah scores a consolation. Earlier on they thought they had scored a goal, but that goal was cancelled out. I think I think it was by Wesley Fofana. He's the one who had scored, but that goal was cancelled out for an offside. And then Trevor Chalobah in the 80th minute did score with Richard James providing the assist. Again, beautiful header. So with Chelsea with the game having returned to a similar numerical, and numbers on both sides, 10 players on the pitch, Chelsea competed well. I thought they did well to retain the ball. In some moments, they could have done better. They were not very decisive in the final third. They sort of went there, especially for the first moment, with a bit of a reservation because they had, and you could sort of understand because they had lost all the attacking players because they had been withdrawn off in the first half. So all you had was Joao Pedro was literally being hung out right there to dry, and every time he made runs, the support delayed to come because those attack-minded players were not on the pitch until late on when Tariq George is brought on. So really, like I said, those first half substitutions did not do Enzo Maresca any favors when they came back in the second half with Manchester United themselves having had the player sent off. And it turned out eventually Manchester United won the game by 2-1. And kudos to Manchester United. Of course, Ruben Amorim, for the first time in his Manchester United career, winning back-to-back games in the Premier League at Old Trafford. Not in the entirety of the Premier League, caught me well, at Old Trafford. Remember, the previous Premier League game at Old Trafford was against Burnley, which they won by 3-2, and now they won this one by 2-1. So at Old Trafford, that's back-to-back wins. But in between there, we know that there is a defeat against Manchester City away to the Etihad Stadium. So the game was a bit of a 50-50 overall. Like I said, the game of two halves, Chelsea having dominating the second half, while Manchester United had dominated theirs in the first half. Basically, that's what it was. That's why eventually Chelsea had the 59% ball possession compared to Manchester United's 41%. Shots on target, Man United had 4 compared to Chelsea's 1. Like I said, they were a bit timid going forward in terms of even when the numbers were 10 versus 10. Chelsea, whenever they went forward, they lacked that sharpness of the attackers because they had withdrawn off majority of the players, in that sense. Anyways, quickly away from that game, although our prediction had been a 1-1 draw between the two sides, the red cards did not help to that effect, but it is what it is. It's football. Sometimes we get these predictions wrong. I'd almost forgotten to keep an eye on that game between Fulham and Brentford. Fulham are leading by 4-1. Now this is a game that I predicted that would finish. My prediction had been a 2-2 draw between the two sides, but it looks like it's not working out that way. We are talking about Fulham leading by 4-1. I mean, how did we even get there? How did we even get there? But like I said, I missed moments of the second half. But goals from Pinnock, an own goal from Pinnock, and then Rodrigo Moniz they all did score to give Fulham those extra 2 goals in the second half. That was in the 50th minute and the 59th minute. But it was Damsgaard that opened the scoring before Alexander Iwobi scored to restore parity in the 36th minute. Damsgaard is called, it came in the 20th minute. And then in the 40th minute, Harry Wilson scored thanks to an Iwobi assist to make it 2-1, that which we went with into halftime. Jesus Christ. I'm having to click a couple of things on my screen, but a lot was not helping. A lot was not helping. There's a VAR check as we speak, but that's because my feed is about a minute and a half almost behind due to poor bandwidth and because of my feed. So anyways, let me see. So that's it. Anyways, back to the early kickoff between Everton. Anyway, I think the fourth call has been cancelled out. Rodrigo Monez's call has been cancelled out by VAR. Still trying to make sense of the decision, but it needed VAR to be correct. But anyways, the first game, that was the Merseyside derby between Everton and Liverpool. Liverpool beating up against Everton by 2-1. Idris Ganagay scoring what turned out to be a mere consolation for Everton, while Ryan Gravenberch scored as well as Hugo Ekitike in the first half to give Liverpool that 2-0 lead in the opening half, and that goal by Idrissa Ganagay came, I think, in the 58th minute. It was equally a game of two halves. Liverpool were very, very dominant in the first half. I thought they competed well, they attacked well. The changes that Anna Slot had made to his starting 11, choosing to sacrifice Alexander Isak, who started against Atletico Madrid, to start Hugo Ekitike, paid off. Florian Wirtz had been omitted from the starting 11 to accommodate Alexis McAllister. It all worked out well, perfectly. But the second half, Liverpool did not play really well. Everton, I think, had outgrown their fear of the magnitude of the opponent that they were facing. The opening half did not feel like a derby whatsoever, really. It felt like a routine fixture where Liverpool, arguably the best team in the Premier League, having a go at it and, going into that 2-0 lead. So then there are some questionable decisions. You would consider them minor, but the context in which they happened was very questionable for me. Particularly the referee giving Kenan Drisbury Hall a yellow card for having a quick start of a free kick, and he did it twice to have a free kick retaken just because it had been taken quicker than to his preference. And I'm thinking to myself, the wall has been said. Yes, you had not yet blown the whistle, but I mean, what's wrong here? And I couldn't see anything wrong with those two moments. But the referee, on those two occasions, had decided that the play be restarted, which I believe, in a way, you sort of alter the team in charge of the set displays plans and to the advantage of the opponent, who then set themselves up a bit much better, in terms of readiness for the free kick. And then, of course, in that sense, the other team sort of cannot deploy the same tactic that they had for the earlier instance in terms of wanting to start it quicker. So that was very questionable. So in the second half, overall, Everton played well. They were less timid. They tried to go for it. It just did not fall their way. But in the first half, we felt that Everton were a bit scared. They gave a lot of respect to Liverpool. Perhaps they deserve the respect, but it is a derby. We know that derbies are the kinds of games that defy all the odds. They defy form, they defy quality of players, because players just give it their all. They are feisty and things like that. But it was never the case. So a game of 2 halves, but Liverpool eventually winning to make sure it's 5 out of 5 in the opening 5 fixtures of the Premier League, and they remain at the summit of the league with 15 points, having played 5 games and won 5. They've conceded 3 goals. They've kept 2 clean sheets. So very, very beautiful, report card for Anna Slot. So far, so good. You really. Well, my anticipation was that maybe that there was a chance that Liverpool get to drop their first 2 points of the season, because my prediction had been a 1-1 draw. I did hold the reservation that given Everton's last 3 trips to Anfield, where they had not won in the last 3, losing all without scoring a goal, I feared that they could lose even this one. Bearing in mind that in as far as the Premier League is concerned, 28 trips to Anfield, they've only won there once. So, I'm not surprised that Liverpool went on to win. But yeah, they did go on to win by 2 goals to 1. And then the other fixture, so Brighton and Hove Albion squander a 2-0 lead to share the spoils with Tottenham Hotspurs. So my prediction had been that Brighton would win the fixture by 2 goals to 1, but Tottenham Hotspurs managed to somehow fight their way back into restoring parity and snatching out a point against this Brighton side, who had taken the lead through Yankuba Minte before Yari. Oh, his name is eluding me. Oh, Fulham still looking for that 4th goal, but yeah, like I was saying, it was Yankuba Minte that opened the scoring for Brighton and Hove Albion before Ayari, scored to make it 2-0 at the time. Yes, Yasin Ayari. Yasin is the name that I was trying to look for. Yasin Ayari scored to make it 2-0 with, a stunning goal. Really, really scored with a stunning goal. Richardson scored to pull one back, which was the first consolation. But then, of course, they got another goal. There was an opportunity that fell to Xavi Simons. He could have scored with that, but the 82nd minute equalizer was an own goal conceded by Van Hecke. Van Hecke conceded also a penalty in the last Premier League outing as they lost to Bournemouth at the Vitality Stadium by 2 goals to 1. So it's not been the kind of good spell that you would have hoped for in the last 2 games. So it finished 2-2 between Tottenham Hotspurs and Brighton and Hove Albion, but I thought Brighton were surprisingly more dominant than I had earlier anticipated that they would be in terms of how they applied themselves. They had 4 shots on goal, on target 3, compared to Tottenham's 3, 7 off target compared to Tottenham's 6. In the second half, like I said, Tottenham competed much better, so they ended up with a better ball possession. But that first half was everything. Brighton were just quite effective. Also, Tottenham's starting 11 was a bit questionable because I did not understand why Xavi Simons was sacrificed ahead of Wilson Odegaard. I did not understand why Rodrigo Bentancur was starting alongside Lucas Bagfield and João Paulinho, and then omitting Pape Matar, who we know that he's given Tottenham Hotspurs that option of playing literally the box-to-box kind of role, and he does it quite effortlessly well. So, but anyways, the manager knows better. Football Royal says, "Hi bro, how are you? Nice chat. Thank you so much. Good evening. How are you doing? Are you following the updates up from the game between Fulham and Brentford? That game is 3-1 as we speak. Fulham had a goal cancelled out, which had been the 4th goal. Anyways, so that was the other results. Tottenham Hotspur sharing the spoils with Brighton and Hove Albion in a 2-2 draw. Like I said, my prediction had been a 2-1 victory for Brighton. So that means, yep, I have Iwobi in my fantasy team. Oh wow, okay. Football Royal. I hope you did join our fantasy football league. In case you haven't joined, let me see if I can quickly extract for for you a code right here. Oh, it's not under that. I need to find for you that code for our fantasy, Premier League team. Maybe you can, if you can spare a moment later on, to go and join our the Football Tribe UG Fantasy Premier League league there. So that's the access code. Anyways, so in the other results, Burnley shared the spoils with Nottingham Forest in a 1-1 draw. Alexander Zichenko conceding an own goal in that one. Okay, it will be a pleasure to have you join. Then Crystal Palace beat up against West Ham United by 2-1. My expectation was that, my prediction was that Crystal Palace would win the game by 2-0, but they conceded in this one. Jean-Philippe Mateta and Tyler Mitchell scoring there for Crystal Palace, while Gerard Bowen had scored for West Ham. Did I watch the Madrid game? Not entirely. My feed sort of only came on for the second half, and I was watching those games alongside with the game between Tottenham Hotspur and Brighton, because the game for Real Madrid kicked off 15 minutes after the other. So I did not watch the entirety of it, but I thought Franco Mastantuano had a good game. Kylian Mbappe, once again, scoring a brilliant goal. You need to see the two goals at the squad. I saw Kylian Mbappe's goal. I mean, brilliant strike from long distance, but I thought the Espanyol goalkeeper should have done better, because, I mean, that ball is struck from distance and he can see it all the way, unless he's saying maybe he was in a way a bit obstructed by the goalkeeper, sorry, by one of his defenders. Maybe he did not maybe he did not see maybe he did not anticipate Kylian Mbappe shooting from that kind of distance. But yeah, you say Militao's goal was way better. I'm definitely going to check it out if you say it was way better. But yeah, I managed to follow up on it, particularly in the second half. Yeah, Real Madrid cruising to yet another victory. It's 5 out of 5 for Xabi Alonso. I must acknowledge they did not. There are similarities between Liverpool and Real Madrid. When you look at their games on paper, they've not played their best football league yet, and yet they've somehow managed to keep winning. Because when you go back to that Liverpool game, that they won by 4-2 against Bournemouth, it wasn't the best of Liverpool's performance, but yet somehow they won. When you go to Real Madrid, I mean, it's not different. It's not different from what they've been doing. They've somehow been scrapping our wins, and it's gone on for quite some time. The free kick against Arsenal, Liverpool have been lucky. Yes, exactly, they've been lucky. And for me, that's what I always say. If you're going to win a Premier League title, you need both. You need luck to be with you, but also you need the hard work. It's a combination of hard work and luck, because while you may work hard, it does not usually equate to you getting the desired result. Sometimes you work hard and still lose. So, for example, you can say Arsenal, they worked hard for that game against Liverpool at Anfield, but luck was not on their side. And that's how they conceded an 83rd minute free kick from Dominic Szoboszlai. On another day, they would have walked away with the point, from Anfield. So, in that sense, you say Burnley penalty, 97th minute, 97, 95th, 90 plus 5, thereabout. Yes, Newcastle goal from Riongo Moha. Now, for Liverpool, I'll say this, because it's something that they constantly do. It's a combination of faith or belief and the never give up kind of attitude. The champions are kind of attitude, because it doesn't matter if they've been leading by 2-0 and you sort of restore parity. They still play with that mentality, that belief that we can't still win this game. Just go back to recently in midweek on Wednesday when they were beating up against Atletico de Madrid. by 3-2. That goal scored by Virgil van Dijk, the header. I kept saying it that I felt that there was a goal coming, and eventually it came. And every time they went for set piece play, I literally, I wished I could uh, push my hand through the screen to tap on one of those, Atletico Madrid defenders to say, every time you go for the set pieces, keep your concentration on three Liverpool players: Virgil van Dijk, Hugo Ekitike, and Ibrahim Konate. The rest you can, you can keep an eye on them, but those should be the main three that you try to mark out. And eventually the goal came through Virgil van Dijk. So it's Liverpool have played with a combination of faith and winning mentality, but they've also had luck on their side because on another day, you do not get that penalty against Burnley and to win that game by goal to nil. On another day, Atletico de Madrid do better in defending that corner and they sort of share the spoils in the Champions League. On another day, Riongo Moha doesn't score against Newcastle. So equally, Real Madrid have sort of scrapped away wins even when they've not played well. Even when you go back to as far back as match day one, because I remember on match day one they won a goal to nil against Osasuna. They did not play well. Osasuna got a red card in that one, but Real Madrid did not play well. On match day two, still they beat up against Real Oviedo. That was a bit of a better performance by 3-0. On match day three, they won by 2-1 against Real Mallorca. It was not pretty, really. It was not pretty. In fact, I think one of their goals was yes, Adagula and Vinicius Jr. Two quick goals, and then that was it. The second half was a bit tough, and then today they come up and win also in not a very very convincing manner, because when you beat up against a team like when you beat up a team like yes, the other victory was against against Real Sociedad, by 2-1. Again, it wasn't the prettiest of games. They received the red card in that one, Dinhausen, but they had to scrap out that one. But the fact that they consistently keep winning is a positive in itself. Then the other results are still was Wolverhampton Wanderers losing to Leeds by 3-1. Now, this result I did not see coming. My prediction had been that Wolves maybe get the better of Leeds and beat them by 2-1, but clearly I was wrong because they lost by 3-1. Wolves, Vita Pereira has to do better. I mean, they lost Ryan Ashnory, they lost Matthias Cunha, arguably two of their best players, and we know that over the years they've been losing, very, very good players. You have to go back to when they lost Diego Jota, the late, may his soul rest in peace. That was, I think, in COVID 2020. They go on to lose players like Joao Moutinho, Ruben Neves. They go on to lose Pedro Neto, Adama Traore when he left to join Barcelona, Ahmad Doherty, and now they've lost Acuna and Atinori. So it's sort of a build over time that they've been losing good players and haven't replaced them quite well, and now they're suffering for it. But Vita Pereira will need more than prayers to turn his ship around as things look on that side. But in the other results, Levante put 4 past Girona. I don't know. They are seriously struggling. 2 seasons ago, we're talking about a team that finished what? Second. Was it second or third? And qualified for the UEFA Champions League. Today, they are bottom with just 1 point, 4 losses and 1 draw. They are bottom. Of course, Mallorca, Sociedad are not any better. Real Oviedo, complete the bottom 4. Celta Vigo, Rayo Vallecano, Levante called themselves out. by beating up against Girona by 4 goals to 0. You know, but Valencia not doing any better. Atletico de Madrid have some stockings to pull up for themselves and things like that. So in the other results, like I said, Real Madrid beat up against Espanyol by 2 goals to 0. Eder Militao and Kylian Mbappe scoring the 2 goals for Xabi Alonso's side, and then you had Deportivo Alves lost to Sevilla by 2 goals to 1, while Villarreal beat up against Osasuna by 2 goals to 1. As we speak, Valencia are leading Atletico Bilbao by 1 goal to 0, while in the German Bundesliga, Mainz beat up against Augsburg by 4 goals to 1. Hoffenheim, Hamburg SV beat up against Heidenheim by 2 goals to 1. Arsenal's Fabio Vieira, unknown to Hamburg SV, did provide an assist in that game. Bayern Munich put 4 past Hoffenheim. Then Freiburg beat up against Werder Bremen by 3 goals to 0, while RB Leipzig beat up against FC Cologne by 3 goals to 1. In the Italian Serie A, it was Bologna beating up against Genoa by 2 goals to 1. Juventus shared the spoils with Hellas Verona in a 1-1 draw, while AC Milan beat up against Udinese Calcio by 3 goals to 0. Christian Pulisic, Fofana, Christian Pulisic with the burst, as well as Fofana scoring in that game. I remember AC Milan are now under the charges of Massimo Allegri. Anyways, let's catch up or follow some the updates from that game between Fulham and Brentford. It is still 3-1. Let's do that mini watch along for this game and see it out. But tomorrow, do not forget that the big games coming your way. Arsenal, Manchester City, Aston Villa are playing away to Sunderland. There's another game still kicking off at 4 p.m. So yeah, I think it's going to be between Newcastle are playing away to who? Let's wait. But it looks like the win is done, and not just yet there, but it looks to be good for the Goose for Fulham. They are bound on beating up against Brentford. We're talking about the Brentford side that forced Chelsea into a 2-all draw. So they are no easy pick of the ledger as far as the Premier League is concerned. Even though Keith Andrews is still trying to string results in his favor. That a decent result for winning 4-2 on penalties in midweek at the third round of the EFL Cup. The EFL Cup will continue midweek. That's to come. That's some long throw in the Fulham area. Oh, Fulham need to spread this pitch. They need to spread this pitch to create that bit of width and there's some Brentford legs. I mean, Brentford lost majority of their goals by losing Brandon Mbomo and Johan Wissa. We're talking about players who between them scored 39 goals and created more than 10 assists, possibly 11, you know. So they lost all that. They lost all that, you know. So it's bound to show. It's bound to show that things did not go their way. You've gone. Any team is definitely going to miss that kind of goal threat when it comes to losing that kind of lineup. You know, then they went on and lost Christian Nogard in that midfield. They lost the goalkeeper Mark Flecken. So yeah, I'm surprised it's Michael Oliver in charge of this game, especially on a weekend where we've had a Merseyside derby, where we've had a Chelsea versus Man United, where we have an Arsenal, Manchester City. Of course, I wouldn't want him anywhere near that game between Arsenal and Manchester City. It's so vast when it comes to Manchester City. Um, but you know, meanwhile, Stuart Atwell is going to be the man in charge of that game between Arsenal and Manchester City. He's not handled an Arsenal game ever since 2023 when he okayed that 1-0 victory for Newcastle against Arsenal. A goal that was scored after committing a foul. Jolinton, I think, pulling Gabriel Magalhaes before Anthony Gordon goes on to score. Was it Anthony Gordon that scored? Possibly. So you know, uh, it's going to be the kind of game that will come with a bit of pressure for him because those Arsenal fans, that Arsenal crowd is going to know anything about. They're going to remember that, and I do not think he will have any pleasant reception for himself. Couple of minutes to full time before we see this one out. Um, Marco Silva will be happy man. Um, some decisions he hasn't agreed with during the course of the game, but he will happy that they are back to winning ways. Calvin Bassey. Coyote, what a long throw in he has. Reminds me of Laurie Dillon. Reminds me of Laurie Dillon, who used to play for Stoke City back in the days when they were still, I think, under the charges of Tony Pulis. They had players like Kenwan Jones, you know. 7 minutes were added. We're into the 92nd minutes already. Jesus Christ. Mosquitoes flying all over the place. Super Sunday, Super Sunday. Arsenal Match City. If Arsenal dare be complacent, if they dare concede possession in the wrong areas, Manchester City will punish them. They need to close out Brad Erling Haaland. They need to kill the game for Rodri and Tijani Enders, and then the rest of the Manchester City's side will struggle. Just now says at least Chelsea can't say United won because they had more men. Just now saying Chelsea can't complain about Manchester United's numerical advantage. I mean, in a way, they will say the red card impacted them, which I think they did, but more likely than not, they will have to blame they'll have to blame it on their manager in Enzo Maresca for the kinds of changes that he was quick to make. Particularly, I for one did criticize them, while for that of William Estavao, I did understand completely. I felt that the one of Pedro Neto was the rushed one. I mean, it's the still 50th minute of the game. What are you rushing? You know, just change a bit of tactic, just play a bit more conservative. You know that once you lose a man, you're gonna have to defend a bit deep, but you can still do it with one of your wingers staying on. So you can see that once we went into the second half, when Manchester United had already lost Casemiro, they lacked that attacking threat because all they had was Joao Pedro, and then subsequently bringing on Tariq George, but it just never worked out. It just never worked out. It just never worked out. So Enzo Maresca will only have himself to blame, given those rash decisions that he made. Because that of Cole Palmer, apparently it was due to an injury, so you understand. But even then, he brought on a player of Andre Santos. He did not bring on an attack-minded player, he brought on a central midfielder, attacking midfielder kind of, So yeah, Chelsea they won't be able to argue that kind of, of lack of a numeric advantage or that kind of thing. They will know that it was the manager that is to blame. They will know that it is Enzo Maresca's own work, and then Rich James, he's so good at right back, and then suddenly he loves to play him in midfield. So and then play Malo Gusto the other side. That cost for Trevor Chalobah to pull one back for Chelsea should be a reminder for Enzo Maresca of how good Richie James can be at right back. A fully fit Richie James can be a very, very good right back. Sort of reminds me. That's true, bro. It sort of reminds me of Ben Chilwell when Chelsea was signing Ben Chilwell from I think West Ham United. He was so good at left back, but of course injuries denied him that. I do not know, for some reason all Pep Guardiola apprentices have tried to conjure out something by playing a player out of position, just because Pep Guardiola has done those kinds of things. He did it at Bayern Munich, playing Phil Plum in midfield. He came to Manchester City, did the same with Joao Cancelo. So every time I look at Richie James in midfield, it reminds me of one of those two players. It reminds me of Pep Guardiola trying to do that kind of thing. But also, we've seen Mikel Arteta pull a couple of Pep Guardiola kind of thing. You remember it was Pep Guardiola that started this whole thing of playing central defenders across the entire back four. Not going for this traditional left back, right back kind of thing. You can see Arsenal present day, Juan Timber, Ricardo Carafiori. These are centre backs that are playing as right back and left back respectively. So all Pep Guardiola apprentices have, picked out something from him and tried to replicate it. Whether they will end up with the same desired results, that remains to be seen. But so far, it hasn't been that successful, really, or it hasn't given them the best yield. Against PSG in the finals of the FIFA Club World Cup, I practically understood that kind of decision because I thought they needed to be more conservative in that midfield. So, yeah, I understood that. But I mean, it's not something that you should be doing every day, you know. But it is what it is. It is what it is. Anyways, so that game as Valencia have beaten up against Athletic Bilbao by 2-0. That game is finished. Hugo Duro, one of the goal scorers, as well as Santa Maria, the goal scorers for Valencia. And then the game between Fulham has finished 3-1 in favor of Fulham against Brentford. Then, like I said, action does continue. On Super Sunday, Bournemouth will be at home against Newcastle, while Sunderland will be at home against Aston Villa. I told you my prediction for Bournemouth versus Newcastle. I'm going for a draw in that one, and then Sunderland to beat up against Aston Villa. Were those my predictions? I'm changing, you know. But yeah, Aston Villa have not had a great start to the Premier League campaign. It's no surprise that they are second from bottom, really. But yeah, could Bournemouth beat up against Newcastle? If the Bournemouth that beat up against Tottenham Hotspur by 0-0 is the one that shows up at the Vitality Stadium, they will beat up against Newcastle. We're talking about a Newcastle side that is going to play with a bit of tired legs, having lost to Barcelona in the middle of the week by 2-1. Goal scored by Marcus Rashford and I think Anthony Gordon on the other side. Meanwhile, Anthony Gordon missed a golden opportunity. That's a game. Then Sunderland have had a good start to the campaign, losing one, winning two, and drawing the other. So that loss came 2-0 against Burnley, I think. Then Manchester City make the trip to Arsenal. Beautiful game to look forward to in as far as this weekend is concerned. In as far as this weekend is concerned, my prediction is a 2-1 victory for the Arsenal. But let's wait and see if they will be able to live to those expectations, because just because we expect them to win does not always guarantee that they will win, but it is what it is. It is what it is in that regard. So yeah, big action to look forward to in as far as Super Sunday is concerned. Atletico de Madrid will be up against Mallorca. Barcelona will be up against Getafe at 10 p.m. East African time. Elche host Real Oviedo. Vallecano in the early kickoff at 3 p.m. against Celta Vigo. In the German Bundesliga, Borussia Dortmund will be up against VfB Wolfsburg, while Bayer Leverkusen have themselves a date with Borussia Mönchengladbach. Eintracht Frankfurt will be up against Union Berlin. Then Italian Serie A, we have the Roma Derby that will come at 1:30 p.m. Lazio versus AC Roma. Then Cremonese will take on Parma, while Torino will be up against Atlanta. Fiorentina will host Como, and Inter Milan will take on Sassuolo. PSG in the French League One will take on Strasbourg, while that is Paris FC. They are the ones that will be up against Strasbourg. PSG will come in the late kickoff at 9:45 p.m. up against Olympique Marseille. Beautiful game, that one of those that you should be looking forward to watch. So what are your predictions, guys? Arsenal versus Manchester City. I've given you mine. Mine is a 2-1 victory for Arsenal, but Arsenal will have to be very, very careful with that Manchester City side. On paper, Arsenal look the better side. Squad-wise, in terms of quality in all positions, you feel that they sort of have an edge over Manchester City. But football is football. Anything can happen. You know, anything can happen. So do let me know what your thoughts are on that fixture. But it will come tomorrow at 6:30 p.m. East African time. So do not miss out on all that action. Otherwise, it's been a pleasure doing this with you. Thank you so much just now. Thank you so much, Sarkot Podcast. Thank you so much, Football Royale, and every single one of you that has managed to be part of this podcast. Allow me to wish you a blessed night, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye for now.